Well, I just saw another advertisement from a financial advisor that made a bunch of guarantees that frankly I just don't understand. So let's talk through that in the next Wealth and Whiskey video. So welcome to Wealth and Whiskey. I'm Roger Kiger. I've been a financial planner for about 30 years, helping people build their wealth and protect their legacies. So Wealth and Whiskey is about digging into the truth behind a lot of things that maybe our industry doesn't always tell you, whether they're good or bad. We call it aged and unfiltered because that's aged, and I'm aged and unfiltered. So we'll talk about some things that maybe other advisors don't want to talk about. And frankly, today, I feel like we need to share sort of the rest of the story behind some of these promises and guarantees that are made by a bunch of financial advisors that maybe they're not fiduciaries. And we'll talk about the fiduciary piece here in a second. But first, before we get into that, I want to encourage you to watch a couple other videos that we've posted previously, because they talk about different types of advisors and how they get paid. And I think that relates a lot to some of these guarantees that you're seeing from different types of advisors, whether they're insurance advisors or commission-based advisors, and maybe they are fiduciaries. I don't know that. Mostly though, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So if you can't understand how they're doing all the things they say they're going to do, maybe there's some piece to it that you don't understand or they're not telling you, right? And before I go through a couple of these specific examples, if something starts with, I guarantee it, I don't know, that's probably enough reason for me to take off running the other direction right out of the gate. But let's go through a few examples of those and unwrap them a little, if you will. So the first guarantee that I've heard many times that I just feel like is misleading is when I hear somebody say, invest with me and you'll never outlive your money. So maybe you won't outlive your money, but maybe your family might, right? So if they're saying we're promising some 7 or 8% guarantee for life and the money will last you for the rest of your life, it might. Normally that means they're going to annuitize all your money. And under that scenario, it will last the rest of your life. But it ends when you pass away. That's what annuitizing means, is to convert that to a pension so that when you pass, there's no money left for your spouse, kids, family, beneficiaries, wherever you want that money to go. And we've had some issues in our own firm with advisors that wanted to do that because that type of business pays high commissions, so you can make a lot of money selling those products. In some situations, they are certainly appropriate. No kids are beneficiaries and you just want the money to be guaranteed for the rest of your life, that's okay. But typically those are not done by fiduciaries, they're done by insurance licensed advisors, right? So when they say you'll never outlive your money, you probably won't outlive your money. But your money's not going to outlive you either, right? When you pass, the money's gone. So that's the first guarantee that really I feel like is misleading. The second thing that I've heard a lot is when somebody says, hey, I can outperform all the other advisors. What? Well, how do you even know what the other advisors are doing? How do they know what your current advisor is doing for you that they say they can outperform it? And if they're going to outperform it, does that mean they're going to make more money or they're going to protect it better? I don't know how they can make that guarantee without doing a whole lot of analysis on your individual account, right? So to back that up, they need to look at your account and compare it to their account with some third-party software analysis system, and there are plenty of those out there, but there needs to be a third party that does an apples-to-apples comparison to really determine how an advisor can outperform all the other advisors. Because if they're doing it in something that's really aggressive, I could probably outperform every advisor if I got lucky and went to a casino and put it all on black. As long as I hit, 60% of the time I'm going to outperform the market. That's not the right example. It's not the best example, but you understand my point, is being really, really aggressive isn't the best way to outperform the other advisors. So another thing that I've heard in some advertisements is when people say you'll never lose money. And it's possible. Again, that relates back to a fixed product that's more of a CD or a fixed annuity. The only way to not lose money is if there are insurance or bank guarantees behind it. It's not a stock market related type of product. It's more backed by some fixed kind of guarantee, which means you're not going to make as much, but you're not going to lose it either. Again, that's the fine print that they don't always tell you when they say you'll never lose money. Be really careful with that. And again, this one relates back to one we talked about a minute ago, is when somebody says I can beat the market, it's kind of like, hey, I can outperform other advisors. Well, can you beat the market? And what is the metric that you're using to do that, right? Are you beating the market in terms of performance? Are you beating the market on the downside in terms of safety? And what market is that? Stock market, bond market? Is it the Dow Jones? Is it the S&P? Is it technology? So there's a lot of other things that when somebody says, I can beat the market. I've been in this business 30 years, and I will tell you, I don't feel like I can beat the market. Now, periodically we get lucky, and we can do some things that maybe are as good as the market or less risky than the market. But I'm not real confident in saying I can beat the market every year. So I just think that, too, is a little misleading. And then I think probably the last one that I think that makes me a little uncomfortable is when somebody says, I can give you all the downside protection from a market crash. So protect your money today so you don't lose money when the market's going to crash. So, and I've seen a lot of investment advising people that live by that philosophy. And to be fair, if the market is up 8 out of 10 years, there's 2 years where it's down, and those 2 years are when some of these folks can do pretty well, right? I mean, a broken clock is right twice a day, and that's some of the same kind of things. The market's going to go through a cycle. The market's going to go down. That's when some of these other people will outperform in a down market. But if you're focused on a down market and protecting that against that, it also means that you're not going to make money the other 8 years out of 10 or 7 years out of 10. So the question is, how do you get that downside protection from those guarantees that all these people are talking about? There's a lot of ways to do that. Again, just don't put it in the market. Yeah, you can do that. Protect it from market downside and market risk. Okay, back to the put it in a CD, put it in a fixed annuity, put it in a bank account. You're not going to have any market risk. That's how they protect you from the market. But you're also not going to have the market returns. That is the reason most people invest in the stock or bond market, right? So those are just some examples of things that I think are misleading when I hear these advisors come out and make all these guarantees. Maybe they can do some of them, but you got to read the fine print. And I do believe that a lot of those types of advisors are not fiduciaries. They're really selling a product more than talking to you about figuring what is the right, how do you determine what is the right investment if you only have one product to sell, whether it's a fixed annuity or something that pays a high commission. Again, back to the asset manager versus the wealth manager and some of the other videos that we talked about how some of these advisors get paid. A fiduciary has to talk to you first about and make a recommendation that's in your best interest before they do what's in their best interest. So it's not usually a commission-based type of investment advisor. So that's the other question that would solve a lot of those questions, those guarantees, and bring them to light right out of the gate. When you're talking to somebody that has these guarantees, if you ask them, are you a fiduciary? It's probably going to eliminate most of those people that are coming out with those guarantees right up front. So ask the right questions. If it sounds too good to be true, maybe it is. Do your homework and make sure that you're looking at all the fine print of what they're talking about so you don't get taken advantage of or get hooked in by some guarantee that maybe isn't exactly what they say it is. So we'll stop there for now. Any of your questions are okay, send them to us, be happy to respond to that. But these things are confusing, and there's a lot of research that has to go into how to pick the right investment or the right investment person, right? That all takes time and diligence and effort and patience, because, you know, wealth isn't built overnight. It's a long process. But hopefully you'll find this helpful. We're happy to continue to share more videos, so please like and share this video if it was helpful, and start your journey by downloading the link to the Legacy Blueprint in the link below. And we'd love to see you on the next video, so we hope you don't miss anything. So I'm Roger Kiger. I really appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Cheers.